The family business they tried to steal from me. I never thought I'd be posting my life story on Reddit, but after what happened, I feel like I need to share. Maybe it will help someone else who finds themselves betrayed by the people who were supposed to have their back. Fair warning. This is long, but I promise it's worth the read. My father built Hartwell custom furniture from nothing but sawdust and determination. Growing up, the workshop behind our house was my second home. While other kids played with dolls, I was learning how to sand edges smooth and the difference between maple and cherry wood. Dad always said, "Emily, you've got sawdust in your veins just like me." By the time I was in high school, I was designing simple pieces. In college, I majored in business with a minor in industrial design, coming home every break to work in the shop. My older brother Michael, meanwhile, went to law school and moved to Chicago. He'd visit for holidays, pat me on the head like I was still 12, and ask Dad how the little hobby shop was doing. What Michael never understood was that Dad's hobby shop had grown into a respected custom furniture business with a 6-month waitlist and pieces featured in design magazines. What started as one man in a garage was now a workshop employing 8 craftspeople and generating over $2 million in annual revenue. When I graduated, Dad offered me a full-time position as operations manager. "Your brother has his path," he told me. "This has always been yours." For 12 years, I worked alongside my father. I modernized our bookkeeping, built our online presence, and expanded our market beyond our small town in Massachusetts to reach clients nationwide. We were even shipping pieces to Europe and Asia. I handled the business side while Dad focused on what he loved, designing and building beautiful furniture with his team. When Dad was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's at 62, we were devastated. The disease progressed faster than any of us expected. Within 2 years, he could no longer work safely in the shop. I stepped up, managing both the business operations and the workshop, making sure every piece still met Dad's exacting standards. During those difficult years, Michael visited more frequently. I was grateful for his support with Dad's medical care and legal affairs. What I didn't realize was that he was laying groundwork for something else entirely. Dad passed away peacefully in his sleep just 3 days after his 65th birthday. I was shattered but determined to keep his legacy alive through the business we'd built together. Then came the reading of the will. I sat in our family lawyer's office, expecting the formality of what Dad and I had already discussed. The house would go to Mom, and the business to me, with Michael receiving Dad's investments and retirement accounts, which were substantial. Instead, Mr. Harrison cleared his throat uncomfortably and read, "I leave Hartwell Custom Furniture to be equally owned and operated by my children, Emily and Michael Hartwell, with the hope they will continue its legacy together." I turned to Michael, confused. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "There must be some mistake," I said. Dad and I discussed this extensively. The business was coming to me. Mr. Harrison looked genuinely perplexed. "This is the final will, signed and witnessed 8 months ago." 8 months ago, when Dad's Alzheimer's had advanced significantly, when Michael had been helping with legal matters. I requested a copy of the previous will. Sure enough, in the version from 2 years earlier, the business had been left solely to me. When I confronted Michael outside the lawyer's office, his facade finally dropped. "Let's be real, Em," he said, his voice cold in a way I'd never heard before. "You've been playing with wood and Dad's shadow your whole life. This is a real business now worth real money. It needs professional management." "Professional management? I've been professionally managing it for years." He smiled condescendingly. "You've been a glorified secretary who knows how to sand a table. I'm going to bring in actual business professionals. We'll scale production, maybe even outsource to China. This could be a national brand." "That's not what Dad built. That's not what our customers pay for." "Dad's gone, Emily. And his quaint little artisan business model is about to be too." That night, I cried until there were no tears left. Then I got angry. Then I got strategic. I knew I couldn't challenge the will directly. It would be my word against Michael's about Dad's intentions. And Michael was the lawyer. But I also knew something Michael didn't. I was Hartwell Custom Furniture. Not just legally, but in every way that mattered. I was the one who had relationships with our suppliers, who knew which mill had the best walnut and which had the best maple. I was the one who had trained alongside our master craftspeople for years. I was the one who knew our clients personally, who understood exactly why they chose us over mass-produced alternatives. Michael had a fancy law degree and an MBA, but he had no idea how to run a custom furniture business. So I decided to let him try. At our first official business meeting as co-owners, Michael arrived with a consultant in a suit that probably costs more than our best dining table. "This is Brandon from McKinley Consulting," Michael announced. "He specializes in scaling craft businesses for national markets." Brandon launched into a presentation about streamlining production, standardizing designs, and optimizing for scalability. I sat quietly, taking notes and asking occasional clarifying questions. "So," I said when they finished, "you want to create a line of standard pieces that can be partially machine manufactured, essentially turning us into a higher-end version of Pottery Barn?" "Exactly," Brandon beamed. "You get it. What about our existing clients? The ones who come to us specifically for custom work?" Michael waved his hand dismissively. "They can pay premium prices for the artisan line, or whatever we call it. But that's not where the real money is." I nodded thoughtfully. "And the team? Are we keeping all our current craftspeople?" "We'll keep the ones who can adapt to the new model," Michael said. "The rest are, well, business evolves." "I see," I said. "Well, you've clearly given this a lot of thought. Why don't you take the lead on this transition? I'll support from the background and help wherever I can." Michael looked surprised but pleased. He'd expected a fight. Instead, I was handing him exactly what he wanted, the chance to show how much better he could run things. What he didn't realize was that I was also giving him enough rope to hang himself. Over the next 3 months, I watched as Michael implemented his vision. He rented expensive office space in downtown Boston, hired 3 MBAs fresh out of business school, and began developing a product line of standardized furniture that could be partially machine-made and assembled in our workshop. Meanwhile, I focused on 3 things. First, I maintained relationships with our existing clients, quietly explaining the transition and assuring them their custom orders would still receive the Hartwell quality they expected. Second, I stayed close to our craftspeople, who were growing increasingly disillusioned with Michael's direction. David, our shop foreman who'd worked with Dad for 20 years, was ready to quit after Michael suggested they could speed up their joinery techniques. "This isn't what your father built," David told me, shaking his head. "We don't cut corners here." "I know," I said. "Just trust me a little longer." Third, and most importantly, I documented everything. Every decision Michael made that diverged from our established quality standards. Every customer complaint about the new direction. Every financial outlay for his expansion plans that wasn't generating return. Michael was spending money like water. The new office, the consultants, the equipment for standardized production, the marketing materials for the new product line. It all added up quickly. Meanwhile, he was neglecting our core business, the custom work that actually paid the bills. 6 months in, we had our first real crisis. A major client, an interior designer who ordered pieces for luxury homes in Manhattan, received a dining table that wasn't up to our usual standards. The finish was uneven, and 2 of the joints were already showing signs of stress. "This isn't Hartwell quality," she told me over the phone. "I've been ordering from you for 8 years, Emily. What's going on?" I apologized profusely and promised to make it right personally. When I brought this to Michael, he shrugged it off. "One unhappy customer isn't the end of the world. We're in transition." "She's not just one customer," I explained. "She's an interior designer who places orders worth over $200,000 a year with us. We'll make 10 times that with the new line," he said confidently. Except they weren't. The new line wasn't selling as Michael had predicted. It turned out that people who wanted Pottery Barn furniture just bought from Pottery Barn. And people who wanted Hartwell furniture wanted actual Hartwell furniture, handcrafted, custom pieces made with care and expertise. By the end of the first year, our profits had dropped by 40%. Michael had burned through most of our cash reserves on his expansion plans. 3 of our most skilled craftspeople had left for other workshops. and our reputation was beginning to suffer. It was time for phase 2 of my plan. I called a meeting with our remaining team, 5 craftspeople, our office manager, and our 2 apprentices. I didn't invite Michael or his new hires. I owe you all an apology, I began. I've let things go in a direction that isn't true to what Hartwell stands for. That ends today. I laid out what was happening with the business, the financial situation, the damage to our reputation, the loss of key clients. Then I shared my plan to save it. I can't force Michael out legally, I explained, but I can offer you all a choice. My proposal was simple but bold. I would start a new company, Emily Hartwell Design. I would focus exclusively on high-end custom work, the kind we'd built our reputation on. I would operate lean, without fancy offices or consultants, just skilled craftspeople creating beautiful furniture. I can't take the Hartwell name, I told them, but I can take everything that made Hartwell special. The craftsmanship, the attention to detail, the personal relationships with clients. I can take all of that, if you come with me. One by one they agreed. Even David, who was 3 years from retirement, nodded firmly. Your father would go with you, he said simply. So will I. I spent the next week quietly contacting our most loyal clients. I was honest about the situation and my plans. Almost all of them promised to follow me to the new venture. Several even offered to prepay for future orders to help with startup costs. When everything was in place, I finally confronted Michael. The business is failing, I told him, sliding a folder across his expensive new desk. Here are the numbers. We're on track to be bankrupt within 18 months. He scoffed. Growing pains. The new line just needs time. The new line isn't selling, Michael. And we've lost 60% of our custom orders, because you've gutted what made us special. So what's your suggestion? Go back to being a tiny workshop barely breaking even. We were never barely breaking even, I corrected him. We were making healthy profits with manageable growth and a sterling reputation. But that's not what I'm suggesting. I took a deep breath. I'm leaving. I'm starting my own company. David, Teresa, Mark, and the others are coming with me. So are most of our regular clients. The color drained from his face. You can't do that. That's completely legal. I finished for him. I'm not taking the Hartwell name or assets. I'm not violating any non-compete because we never had one. I'm just taking my skills and relationships elsewhere. He stood up, face flushed with anger. This is theft. No, Michael. This is consequences. You wanted to run the business your way, against all advice. Now you get to deal with the results. I placed a second folder on his desk. This is my offer to sell you my share of Hartwell. The price is fair based on current valuation, which, I should warn you, is significantly lower than it was when Dad died. Why would I buy you out when you're leaving anyway? He sputtered. Because if you don't, I'll stay as 50% owner and vote against every decision you make until the business completely collapses, I said calmly. Or you can own 100% of what's left and try to salvage it however you want. He stared at me with a mixture of shock and newfound respect. I never thought you had this in you, Em. That was your first mistake. Starting over wasn't easy. I converted my garage into a temporary workshop and took a small business loan to lease a modest commercial space. I was working 16-hour days, handling everything from design to bookkeeping to customer communications. But I had 3 things Michael didn't: deep knowledge of the craft, relationships with the right people, and a clear vision of what I was building. Emily Hartwell Design launched with a simple website showcasing our craftsmanship and philosophy. I was transparent about our new beginning, positioning us as a continuation of a tradition rather than a brand new venture. Our tagline became New Name, Same Hands. Within 3 months, we had more orders than we could handle. I hired back 2 of the craftspeople who had left, then added an apprentice. By the end of our first year, we had a team of 8 and had moved to a larger workshop. Meanwhile, Michael struggled to keep Hartwell afloat. Without the skilled team or the client relationships, he was left with expensive overhead and a product line that didn't align with the brand's reputation. He tried pivoting several times, first to fully machine-made furniture, which flopped, then to importing designs from overseas, which existing customers rejected. 2 years after our split, I received an unexpected email from Michael. "Can we meet? It's about Hartwell." We met at a coffee shop halfway between my workshop and his downtown office, which I noticed was now in a much less prestigious building. Michael looked tired. The designer suit was gone, replaced by a simple button-down shirt. He got straight to the point. "I'm selling Hartwell. I've got an offer from a furniture conglomerate. They mostly want the name and customer lists." I nodded, waiting for him to continue. "The thing is," he said, not quite meeting my eyes, "they're interested in the craftspeople associated with the Hartwell name, including you." I couldn't help but laugh. "So they want to buy what you no longer have." He winced. "Basically, look, they're offering good money, but it would be worth more if you were included. I'm prepared to split the difference with you." I thought about it for a moment. "I'm not interested in working for a conglomerate, Michael, but I am interested in the Hartwell name. It was Dad's legacy." "You want to buy the business from me?" He looked genuinely surprised. "Just the name and intellectual property. You can sell the physical assets to your conglomerate or whoever else." We negotiated over the next few weeks and eventually struck a deal. Michael sold me the Hartwell name, logo, design archives, and customer lists for significantly less than they were worth at their peak, but more than they were worth in their current state. 3 months later, Emily Hartwell Design became Hartwell Custom Furniture once again. We moved into a new workshop, not as fancy as Michael's downtown office had been, but twice the size of our original space. I rehired several more of the original team, who had scattered to other jobs. On the day we hung the original Hartwell sign above our new door, David, who had delayed his retirement to see this moment, handed me a small wooden box. "Your father made this the year you were born," he said. "He told me once it was for a special occasion." Inside was a set of miniature woodworking tools, perfectly crafted to fit a child's hands, with my initials burned into each handle. "He always knew," David said quietly. "Even when you were a baby, he knew this would be your path." The triumph. 5 years have passed since I bought back my father's name. Hartwell Custom Furniture isn't just surviving, it's thriving. We now employ 22 people, including 6 apprentices, in our newly established training program. Our waitlist for custom pieces is nearly a year long, and our reputation has never been stronger. Last month, Architectural Digest featured one of our dining tables on their cover. The article inside told the story of our Renaissance and praised our commitment to traditional craftsmanship in a world of mass production. Michael and I have slowly rebuilt our relationship. The business failure humbled him in ways I never expected. He's back practicing law, but now specializes in helping family businesses with succession planning. He refers clients to me occasionally, and even admits that I was the right person to carry on Dad's legacy. "You were always more like him than I was," he told me at Mom's birthday dinner last year. "I was too busy looking at spreadsheets to see the actual business." As for me, I found balance I never had before. I'm still deeply involved in the business, but I've built a team I trust. I've even started dating again, a landscape architect who appreciates the feel of rough wood and doesn't mind sawdust on the kitchen floor. Sometimes I walk through our workshop late in the evening, when everyone has gone home. I run my fingers along the half-finished pieces, smell the mixture of sawdust and varnish, and feel my father's presence so strongly it takes my breath away. In those moments, I know that the betrayal I experienced was actually a gift in disguise. Without Michael's attempted takeover, I might never have discovered my own strength. I might have been content to simply maintain what Dad built, rather than expanding it in ways that even he might not have imagined. Sometimes the people who try to tear you down end up forcing you to build something stronger than before. The key is recognizing your own value when others fail to see it. Dad always said I had sawdust in my veins. What Michael never understood was that sawdust isn't just a byproduct. It's evidence of creation in progress. The end.